Hello, I'm Mark Wogan, and this is, of course, Spooning with Mark Wogan. Today's episode is brought to you by Tails.com, the 100% tailored dog food subscription. At Tails.com, there is no such thing as average dog food, because there's no such thing as an average dog, especially my dogs. My dogs, like me, their general happiness starts with being fed properly. And that is why I am loving Tails.com for my dogs at the moment. It was super easy for me to set up my tailored food plan for both my dogs, especially Murphy, who is always known for being a little bit hyperactive and always hungry. It's great to know that both the dogs, Murphy and Misty, are getting all their nutritional needs met with their specially tailored plan on Tails.com. It also gets delivered to your door, which is a bonus. Tails.com creates personalised meal plans along with their vets to ensure that your dog's well-being is catered for, their coat, their gut health, everything. Plus, it's super convenient. It's delivered directly to your door once a month on a subscription plan. Visit Tails.com to learn more. That's Tails.com. Hello and welcome to Spooning with me, Mark Wogan. We are here in the Lindsay room at Corrigan's Mayfair, where I'm going to be joined by a very special guest, and we will be challenging the food that they think they love and the food that they think they hate. Now, myself and Simon the chef here have been cooking up some specialities for my special guest today. But who is that guest? Now, he is a superstar DJ. He's also a DJ to the superstars. He's raved with the greats. He's also written a book, and he's recently got married. But who is it? It's none other than DJ Fat Tony.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good. You good?
You look really well.
I am really.
Is married life suiting you?
You know what? I can seriously say this week I am actually probably the happiest I've been in years, and it's really weird because I've been happy within my relationship, but the marriage thing is
Solidified it.
yeah. Just to say, my husband is such a remarkable thing.
Who asked who?
Oh, I asked.
Right.
I asked for everything. I'm very needy. I asked him in New York. We were in New York, and I asked him in Central Park on the fountain. He kind of thought something was going on. I'd planned it, so he thought I was going to dump him. But and his uncle was with us, and his uncle was filming from afar. But yeah, it was an important day.
It is. And I think, obviously you've lived as an openly gay man for many, many years and seen the changes and
I've always been openly gay, I think.
Yeah.
There was never a time that I was like in the closet ever.
No point.
No, there's no point.
But like you say, to live in a world where you can say my husband as a man is a big thing.
It is a big thing, but it's not we're not there yet.
Yeah.
On a lot of it, I live in a bubble.
Yeah.
We live in London, central London. We are very lucky that we live in central London in a lot of ways. But when it comes to the LGBT thing, I think that right now things are moving in the wrong direction rather than the right direction.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's suddenly trans rights have been stopped, and it's what's going on in different countries are. You're no longer allowed to display the pride flag. You're no longer, the rights are being taken away. And I think for me, I wanted to get married in a church, and I wasn't allowed to get married in a church in this country. No, it's still not allowed. We even went to the Church of England, and had a word with them, to a gay priest. He tried to push me, and literally they have a referendum every year, and every year they turn it down. So you're still not allowed to get married in the eyes of God.
But judging by what is coming out of perhaps the church, glass houses and stones,
it's kind of crazy. It is. It's bizarre, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Religion's not my thing anyway. I mean, I just wanted to get married because I love the building. Do you know what I mean?
nice building.
And also, the church I wanted to get married in is in Knightsbridge, and it's St Paul's it's called, and Lee McQueen was buried there, and my friend Annabelle was buried there.
Yeah,
it's
next door to the Bartley.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's got so much cultural history. Yeah. And for me, it's an incredible building. I wanted it more so for my mum than for myself, because it was about my mum walking me down.
Wasn't Richard Coles was associated with that
yeah.
church for a long time, wasn't he?
And the vicar there's amazing.
Alan Guile, Father Alan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely man.
What a lovely man.
Yeah.
And everyone that works there is like a part of that community. Still couldn't do it. But you know what? He bent over and he was like, "Okay, look, we'll try and do a service for you or whatever." But it's like, kind of got to beat him up on it.
It's nuts.
There's no point. So we got married in the limelight instead. Disused church.
Which, was a temple to many things over the years. Now, you said, obviously, we live in London, we live in the bubble, but you are London through and through. You're originally born in Pimlico.
Yeah. That's
back in 66.
65. I quite like 66 though. Yeah.
We'll stick with 66.
Yeah, 1973.
But, so you're a London kid.
Yeah.
And, you grew up in Battersea.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a number of friends who grew up in Battersea. It's, was growing up easy for you? Was it a hard time?
I think for me growing up, because I grew up on an estate, and it was a new estate. So there was none of that hierarchy of people that had lived there before and you moved in, so you got bullied. Everyone moved in at the same time.
Which is quite a weird thing.
It really is. And they were all brand new houses. And everyone moved into these houses. So everyone kind of grew up on the estate together. My brother at the time, my older brother, was a bit of a villain, was a bit of a hard nut. So they all kind of looked up to him and he got away with murder. So I was come on the back of that. And being me, running around the estate, like doing what I was doing, there was never a case of me trying to hide my sexuality. Even though I wasn't aware really of my sexuality, I was just who I was. And having a hard brother helped. But at the same time, when he wasn't around, but my dad was like 6'3" and had fingers like bananas. And he was one of those dads that if we got bullied or we got beaten up, he would throw us out the house and make us go and hit them and say, "You're not coming back in the house until you do." He literally taught us how to fight. He was a hard man, but at the same time, he was a very, it was kind of a hard love.
Yeah. Because, you had an interesting relationship with him that sort of, was strained for many years through
30 years,
through your behavior and through the type of man he was. But the nice thing is that, you sort of reconciled, was it 2008, wasn't it? You kind of got to know him properly.
Well, yeah, circumstances put me down there. So I hadn't spoken to my dad properly for roughly about nigh on 30 years. I hated him. I blamed him for everything. Because, when I was a kid, he drank heavily and would always, it was a volatile relationship between him and my mum. And my mum would always end up going to A&E because she would have taken overdoses and all of this stuff that went on in our house when alcohol was brought into the equation. So I always resented my dad because I always thought my dad was a bully and I always thought my dad was anti everything. And I didn't ever stop to think, oh my God, he's an alcoholic, he has, he's not well. So I resented him throughout my life for that. And then when I went down there in 2008 and I actually went to him and I got clean in 2007 and I went and said, "Look, I'm really sorry for everything I put you through." And he literally looked at me and was like, I'm really proud of you that you're clean. But his exact words were, "Why don't you f*** off and come back when you're 6 years sober and you know what you're apologizing for?" And I was just like, wow, he's still not changed, But to a certain point, he had a point. I was apologizing to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
Not a part that it wasn't. There was no amend because I hadn't fixed anything. I literally had just put down the drink and drug. I was still crazy.
You landed at 14 in the sort of right in the centre of what was the kind of coolest club scene going on in the world.
Yeah, it was.
And it's interesting because, my sort of entry into club world happened around about the same age, and it was the Mud Club, and it was Philip's salon on the door and all that sort of thing. And, my parents terrified about where I was and what I was doing and that kind of thing. But, what was that like? Because it was, in the papers at the time, it was all the kind of new romantic gender bender thing, wasn't it? But you were right at the centre of that.
Well, for me, I was always drawn to the craziness of everything. My alcoholic auntie used to come over to by our house and lay on the grass banks and drink cider and throw bottles at buses, and I was obsessed. I was obsessed by that energy. And then to go from being at school and getting kicked out of school and going to work in the King's Road and starting off in the Chelsea Potter and then going out clubbing and being introduced into that world, I felt like I'd arrived. I remember my first time I went to a nightclub, which was the Embassy, because I was shagging the manager, and I went there and I just thought, I never want to leave. This is my world. I never want to leave this world. And it kind of never have, but it was just that arrival of just like the excitement, the lights, the noise. Everything just felt that I belonged there.
But it was at that point, or was it just prior to that you met and became friends with Boy George?
Oh, so I met George in the King's Road, and I met quite a lot of people in the King's Road, because when I left school, I got a Saturday job working in a newsagent's opposite Peter Jones, and I worked there for about 4 months. Got sacked from there for stealing, as you do, you know. And then there was a place called the Great Gear Market, which is halfway down King's Road. I started working on a stall in there, and kind of met so many people from the fashion world came in, because King's Road at that point was the epicenter of everything. So you went there to be photographed, you went there to be seen.
Well, you had that thing. You'd come out of Sloane Square tube station, and then just where the barracks were there was where all the punks used to line up.
Yeah. By Chelsea Drugstore.
Yeah, by Chelsea Drugstore there. And then
it's now McDonald's.
And then further, the sort of next stop down was the Chelsea Potter.
Yeah.
And then further down from Robot.
Then from Robot you went into Anthony Price. Then you went to Johnson's.
Yeah.
Then you went to World's End.
Yeah.
And that's where it all ended.
Yeah, you didn't go beyond.
No, we went past Vivian. That was it.
No.
Malcolm, and that was it. That's where it ended. Actually, no, you had Smile. Keith,
yes.
You had Smile just beyond it, but that was really pushing it.
Yeah.
That was like almost in the countryside.
But there was also, what was the hairdressers?
Smile. Oh, Scissors.
Scissors, that was it. Scissors, where they literally haul people in off the street and mess their hair up and then stick them back out on the street.
That's exactly it.
Scissors on the King's Road.
And they used to have models standing outside trying to get you, that crazy days.
But, that whole club scene and was it 1982 you actually start DJing, because you badger Rusty Egan so much about how crap the music is in his club.
The thing about it was before that, before they opened the playground, which was at the Lyceum, it wasn't a small club. Him and Steve and Rusty and the guy called Kevin Millins, they were all the business partners of it. They were opening this new night on a Saturday. I was 16, and I was like, I remember going to Rusty and Steve saying, well, you're opening this club, but I'm opening one the same night. And literally blagged this my way into it. And I was like, yeah, I'm opening my own night. Everyone's going to come. And they were like, well, why don't you work on outdoor instead of doing that? And I was like, all right then. So I kind of remember going away and saying, I'll think about it. I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks. And I remember going back saying, I'll give it a try. And that was how it started. So every week I would say, everyone's leaving. Rusty would be like, hours in tonight, everyone's leaving.
But back then, at that moment, that's when you were quite big.
Oh, I was fat.
You were fat. And you got the name Fat Tony.
100%. It was one of those names that people said behind my back. And I just owned it. I just thought, no, okay, I'm Fat Tony. Yeah, that's me. And just every week I would say the music, people are leaving. And the DJ was...
But do you know who called you Fat Tony first?
No.
No?
No, not really. I think it was a mixture of people.
But Gina calls you Fatima, doesn't it?
Fatima, yes.
Yeah. Gina being Boy George.
Things, as in, calls me a lot of things. It was just my best man at my wedding, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a very enduring friendship.
Oh.
And you're a man who's not shy of a conflict.
No. Far from it.
And you've fallen out with some people of note over the years.
Well, I don't suffer fools gladly, and at the end of the day, if I think something's not right, I'll say it. I'm not scared of who you are or what you do or what you think you can do. I will tell you, and when I'm wrong, I probably admit it.
But if you think about, oh, hold on, look, we've got something here. Look, this is a ride for you. Look at that.
Crème Brûlée.
One of the things you talked about was your sweet tooth.
Yeah, I love it. It's so bad.
So there is a little bit. Simon has put together his creme brulee here. That's got some English. That's got some English strawberries and some shortbread with that as well. Here, do you want to look? Yeah, there's a little spoon. You can get going on that.
It's my favourite bit.
There we go. Now, how does this stack up? I'm going to have a little bit of that as well. Well, that's good, isn't it?
You know what? Some people really get it wrong, and it's creme brulee. But sometimes there's nothing worse than the creme being sloppy.
No.
And there's nothing worse than the crust being too thick.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes over-granularized sugar, and you're like, it becomes gritty. It's about the crust.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, with the sugar?
But also that thing of not overcooking it or undercooking it. So, like you say, if it's too sloppy, it's horrible. If it's overcooked, it's too eggy.
Yeah, and that becomes almost omelette-like.
Yeah, you don't want that sweet omelette.
It really isn't, and it's creme brulee. It's such an old school pudding. It's like.
But there is a way to do it. It's that thing of like when you talk about tiramisu, right? The Italians they've all got their own way of doing tiramisu. It's like, oh no, you do it like that here, you do it like this here. It's like, but creme brulee is creme brulee, and there is one way to do it correctly, and I think we've got it in front of us there.
Oh, and a great shortbread as well. I hope he makes his shortbread himself. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, everything made.
That's so good
on site. But because you first went to Ibiza in '83.
'83, yeah.
And what was it? Because it
was very Euro.
Yeah, I mean, I went there the first time I went. I think it was 1985.
Yeah.
And there was a definitive sort of club scene by that stage. Was it still in its infancy at that point?
Listen, Ibiza then was, like clubs like Amnesia were really small. They weren't bus garages. They were small. They had no roofs on them. They was like the main dance floor had a parachute silk over it.
Yeah.
That was it. And you went to these places, and then you had Coup, which was a super club, which is now Universe. And you went there. And the thing about it was the music was really, at that point in time, still really Euro-y. People were fan dancing. You had the Locomia, which were these guys that kind of were like new romantics with backcombed hair and really pointy shoes and fans. And they were hired to dancing everywhere. And they run the Old Town. They had the gay district up in the Old Town. So that was where the creativity came from. You went to this place, which was, what made it so magical was, in 1982, there was a club called Angels that you went in and you went down a slide to get into the club.
Yeah.
You never went anywhere like that before.
Well, I mean, it's like Amnesia was the first place to fill the dance floor with foam at various points of the evening.
These places were just, and you were dancing underneath the stars. It was insane, and it was insanely beautiful. And the people, it was all about the characters on the island. You had a guy called Jesus. You had all these different characters walking around, and they were so free. They were free spirits, and you didn't have that. We were so oppressed in England at that point in time.
Well, if you were like that, you were in a basement in London.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
you weren't in an open air club,
no, you weren't.
Or wandering the streets of the local town.
No, and you very likely end up in an all-night cafe just because that's where off the beaten track, because that's where people had to go to be safe.
Yeah, the up all night.
You know that. Yeah. The one in Trafalgar Square was pretty good as well, but
But so you're immersing yourself in this scene, but at the same time, you're immersing yourself in quite a serious drink and drug problem as well.
I think, it was all about partying.
Yeah.
And even back then in 82, I would always drink irresponsibly, and I would always be the last one out. And I would always be the one that was vomiting at the end of the night. In Ibiza, I drank a bottle of Chivas Regal, and I even if I mention it, I can smell it to this day. And never touched it again after that because I was so alcoholically poisoned. It was unreal. And I still had allergic reactions to alcohol back then, but still continued it. So it was a slow burner. It wasn't like, oh my God, at one drink and I was gone. But what had happened was that it became my way of life.
But it was so part of that scene,
Of course it was.
as well. I mean, you couldn't separate the two. And when the whole sort of dance scene, Ibiza, the Summer of Love, all that sort of thing erupted as well. At what point did sorry, what were you?
I was going to say, the difference being is when we're in nightclubs now, and you're not, and if you're not dancing and you're not talking socially, you're on your phone. That's the difference. But then you weren't on a phone, so you either went to the bar and got a drink. So it was a different time because you kind of got off your nut to just to get through the night. Do you get what I'm saying to you? It was true, literally.
But I mean, I remember that, whole period and the whole rave culture and all that sort of thing. And that was certainly the point at which my drug use accelerated. And, it was as much as, if the dealer was coming round, it was like, well, I'll take what you've got. Yeah. Rather than, I specifically want that.
I mean, it literally was, pre-MDMA in England we went through the whole heroin thing and the whole cocaine thing. Heroin is not a drug that you do in nightclubs.
No.
People gouging out in a nightclub is not the look. And, it destroyed our scene massively because so many people started dying. And then it wasn't until like later on when MDMA started coming out, a few characters started bringing it over, and that just changed everything. It changed the way we were. It changed the attitude of people in nightclubs. There was, up to that point, trying to DJ to people on cocaine is not the one.
No.
Playing music to people on cocaine is not exactly the best thing in the world because, they're so like on edge. But when ecstasy came in, it changed everything.
Yeah, and it was an extraordinary movement, and for many people,
it was a revolution.
But a lot of casualties off the back of it.
Of a lot, Yeah, of course.
I was one. You were one.
But do you want to use that word casualty? I think in a way, I'm a casualty because I don't have a stop button. I come from. It's in my DNA. But I think a lot of other people, ecstasy changed their lives for the better.
Yeah, I think
it opened their minds.
Yeah, I think if you're not addictively inclined, maybe you can experiment. But that was never my experience.
Not mine.
It was like, if I was going to a club and taking E, it was 12, 13 a night.
Yeah, but there are people in this world that can go out, take E, and go home with them in their pocket.
Yeah, I don't know.
And put them in drawers. Can you believe it?
I don't know. I don't understand.
I've got some E's left over from Christmas. What? And like literally, and like I go to people's houses and they'll be like, "Oh, I know what I've got upstairs. I've got some whatever in the drawer from like 2 months ago," and I'd be like, what type of people are these?
No. Or people that would leave, that much in their gloves.
No. And people who had bars in their houses. They'd open a cupboard and it'd be full of bottles of booze. I'd be like, I couldn't get my head around it.
You drank those till they were empty.
Hello, who has a full bottle of booze in their house? Nutcases.
But that thing of, you kind of reach the end of the road with this. As many people do, you either reach the end of the road or the road reaches the end of the road reaches you and you unfortunately die.
Yeah.
You got lucky, you didn't. Yeah. You got into treatment.
I don't think getting lucky is I think that I 28 years and the last 10 were definitely trying to kill myself every day. And it got to that point where I was dying. All I had to look forward to was death, really. Without sounding overly dramatic, I was planning my own funeral. I was planning music that I was playing at the funeral every day. That was what I used to do, and then just literally the pilot light got switched back on, which made me just think I can't do this anymore.
But what was that moment?
It was I was in a club in the Cross, and my partner at the time came in, and literally just there'd been a drama for weeks and weeks and weeks, well, for years. But like that day, I'd been in it, gone back to his house and stolen jeans, and he turned up at the club, and I thought, oh, here we go. Someone come and told me he'd walked in the club, and I was like, here we go. The drama's starting. I was in the green room, and by this point in time, I had no teeth. I weighed about 7 stone. I was completely and utterly emaciated, and I was insane. I would rock backwards and forwards just to try and keep sane. And he came in, and I just thought, I can't deal with this tonight. I'd already been out probably all week, and like had a couple of hours sleep here and there. And I remember coming up and putting his hand on my shoulder and just saying, "What happened to you?" And I remember looking at him and start crying, and I just thought that was it. I said, I couldn't answer the question, and it felt like, okay, this is the end of that. And I left, and 2 days later I went and got help from my GP, and I said to my GP, "Oh, I think I've got a drug problem," and he looked at me and said, "I've been waiting for you to say this to me." I said, "Well, why didn't you ever say it to me?" He said, "Because it was something you have to do." And then after I went to a really amazing place called City Road Drug Drop-In Centre, and I went there and asked them to help me. It was a long process. It didn't happen overnight. I had to put the work in. I had to prove that I wanted to get clean, which was a mighty task.
Yeah.
Because everything you do is measured by what you take or what you drink. What do you do without that?
Yeah.
And I had to really get to a level of sanity where I thought, okay, I want to live. It took a long time.
Yeah, because you weren't immediately offered a place in a treatment centre. It took 3 months to get in somewhere.
Yeah, literally. I was going backwards and forwards for up to about 6 months and all, and then I went off. That I managed to get after going to lots and lots of interviews and going in front of panels and boards. Back then you had to go to a place in Camden Road and sit in front of a panel, and then you had to get a care worker, and then they had to assess you. Then you had to go through the whole route of the psychiatric route. Well, I did anyway, because I'm so far gone. And literally, I remember being asked by the psychiatrist, "Do you self-harm?" And I was like, "No. Why would I self-harm? God forbid, no." My partner went, "You pulled all your teeth out." I was like, "Yeah." And it was like that, the level of normalizing what we do. I thought that wasn't self-harming. Do you know what I mean? It's like I hadn't drank water in 20 years because I thought Jack Daniels was made with distilled water. There you go. That's got spring water in it. That's all I need to drink. And it literally was a case of having to retune all of that stuff, that's that thinking.
But one of the things that I read, which I loved, was and I identified with, was when you finally got into a rehab and you're there, you subsisted more or less completely on sugar puffs.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
because immediately you want to replace
that sugar
with sugar.
Alcohol is sugar. That's what we do.
But my thing was bird's custard with strawberry ice cream. That was a great combination. That saw me.
That's a school dinner's combination.
Yeah, that saw me through rehab. The custard had to be hot. The ice cream had to be cold.
Yeah, I know quite a few people who do hot and cold. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, no, sugar puffs were my favorite. Anything with sugar.
Yeah.
I was just drawn literally bars of Nestle Crunch.
On the subject of sugar, I have something for you here, which is a gift from my wife to you, who is a massive fan. Which is one of her Basque cheesecakes.
Oh my God, how did you know I love Basque cheesecake?
Well, I don't, but this is what she does.
Literally love, I'm sorry, Basque cheesecake is where's that?
Yeah, so this is her special version.
And she bakes?
Which, no, but she does what she calls a bisque Basque, right? So she does a Basque cheesecake with a wafer-thin Biscoff base.
Okay, because that I've not had.
Yeah, well, this is unique. This is unique to Susan.
Doesn't have it.
This is unique to Susan. Now, the only qualification for this is you need to try a piece of it now.
Oh, I'm going to try a piece of it now.
And then you can take the rest home.
Listen, there's no qualification. That was going to happen anyway.
Right. So
don't lose that. I want that as well.
We're going to get this little plate out here.
God.
Let's just pull a slice out for you here.
Wow, look at it. The crust on that is perfect.
There you go, Tony.
Look at this. This is perfect.
This is you having she calls them Maite cheesecakes. There's a spoon. Tell us what you think of that.
I wouldn't go in from that side. I'd go in from this side.
You're going from that side?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you want to end on that bit.
And this is the burnt bit. This is the bit that it's got the crust and it's just.
She knows what she's doing, right?
See why you married her.
How good is that?
So good.
I'm sorry, I'm going to
Tell him.
I've got to have a bit of that.
So, and how often does she make this?
If you follow Maite Cheesecakes, M-A-I-T-E,
I will.
you can order them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does she deliver?
Yeah. She would to you.
Insane.
How good is that?
But you know what?
She does a normal Basque and she does...
No, I was just about to say, the biscuit at the bottom is perfect. Whatever she cooks it in, like the butter or...
Yeah, it's quite a lot of butter.
It adds a different element to it.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's insane.
There you go. You've got a whole one to take home.
Oh, incredible. Ha! Okay.
To your new husband, Stavros.
He ain't getting none. It's Greek. He doesn't like cheesecake. No, I'm joking.
What? He doesn't like cheesecake? Here, I tell you what, I'm going to put that down here until later.
Wow.
It's good though, isn't it?
That's something else.
Well, she'll be very pleased. But that's you know, there's your public persona, right? Which is, you know, you're seen as this man who seems to spend his life surrounded by glamorous people, living a glamorous lifestyle, who's turned his life around, all of which is true.
Yeah.
But what is Tony at home? Well, you know, because now you're a married man, you love your dogs, you know, because obviously you're in clubs, you're around people. It's like, what do you like? I mean, do you get into a stained tracksuit, sit on the sofa and watch EastEnders? What do you do?
I do go not into a stained tracksuit, but I do like a tracksuit. The thing about it is it's stained after half an hour anyway. Whatever I wear, I get food everywhere. I'm a big foodie. For me, there's nothing better than doing what I do, traveling wherever, flying home and just turning into my street. I live in Pimlico. It's all white. It's like a chocolate box picture. And as soon as I turn into my street, I just think, there's no better place. And then I just get my dogs and we go out to the dog park or we go to Battersea Park or to Green Park. And that is everything for me.
But I think that's the interesting thing, I think, about you, because if, you know, so much of the negative aspects of what happened in your life are associated with the dance music side of you, but you've managed to create this balance between the two where you haven't completely walked away from it, let it go. It's still something you go and do. It's like, you know, of legend now are your brunches that you know. You
don't use the B word anymore.
Don't you? Sorry.
It's like a swear word. But you know, the day raving sort of scenario. Yeah, I mean, it is about balance, as I said before.
So if we're not using the B word, what are we using? Because it's like
we just call it by its name, full fat.
Full fat.
You know, because brunch conjures up like bottomless brunch and all of those type of things, and it's not about that. It's a dance party. You're not coming there for an hour of free booze. No, that's not you. I wouldn't encourage that.
No,
you know. I'd encourage you to come and dance and have the best time of your life, because that's what it's about. And for me, the world that I was in before was my own destructive world. The world that I'm in now is a positive world where I can do whatever I want. right? Because I do it in a positive way.
Mm.
So going clubbing and being in those environments, people drinking and taking whatever they take is not the problem.
Mm.
I'm the problem. This is the problem.
Yeah.
When I make it problem. Yeah. But now my connection with music is that I no longer listen to music. I feel music again. Yeah. Music for me is the greatest drug that you could ever get into.
Because there was a period where you felt you couldn't DJ unless you were you're out of it.
Stand it. Mm. I remember actually there was a DJ that was sober in the 90s, and I'd be like, she can't be a DJ. How can you DJ to people that are off their nuts and be sober? It wouldn't work. I couldn't get my head around it. And that justification of what we do, how we will justify something because it's easier for us to do that.
You're this, through the aid of sugar, you are this much calmer person, but you're still quite fiery. I mean, so for example, when you told Madonna to F off.
Oh yeah.
Were you still using them?
Yeah.
Oh, you were still using.
I was still using them.
Right.
But I seriously, I don't need drink or drugs to tell someone to F off. Trust me.
What did she do?
Oh, she was what I told her to go away.
Yeah.
She was
go
shocked.
forth and multiply.
It was that party, and they got me there to DJ. But then from that, I become best friends with Christopher, her brother, and ended up doing tours with her. So it didn't bother her that much. Do you know what I mean? Because I think
that's what I mean.
Because I stood up to her.
But that's what I mean. Is like you seem to fall out with people and then go full circle and end up being really close friends with them.
All my best friends are people I've had arguments with. Always. Because you know what it is? I clash with my own self. Right. As I said, I can have an argument with myself. But because when I see myself in other people, straight away I will it's like justifying what we do by saying I'm not as bad as him. Do you know what I mean? Oh, it's not as bad as that. Do you know? No. And that's what we do. So when I have an argument with someone, 9 times out of 10, I'll either end up being in a relationship with them of some sort, or they become my best friend.
So when you outed George Michael,
yeah,
did that come back round to a good friendship?
Well, yeah, 100%. So. Good, because with Jorgen, at the end, I kind of like trying to get him sober. There was loads of other elements to it, but you clash with yourself. It's like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. I mean. There's that whole thing, like what we hate in others is actually what we hate in ourselves.
100%.
But so now you are this married man. You've got the full fat day raves.
Yeah, we've got that.
What is next though? Because obviously you had the book out a couple of years ago, which if nobody's it's called a Don't Take Requests, which I think is the perfect title. But it's also a real insight into addiction, and what that can do, and how you turned your life around from that, and all the people that you've helped on the way through. There are a lot of people who are living much better lives as a result of knowing you as a sober person.
Well, yeah, because we lead by example, right? And I'm one of these people that if I'm feeling good, I want you all to feel good. If I'm having a bad day, you're all going to have a bad day. And that's kind of the way I've always been, and I'm still like that, But with I Don't Take Requests, it changed many times whilst writing that book. It wasn't going to be the book that it is, and we kept changing it because it wasn't honest enough. And I just thought, well, let's do this and make this the most.
Because you didn't bash it out in 6 months. It took 2.5 years.
Because it wasn't right. It was never honest enough, and I tried to unvarnish myself in so many ways because I didn't need to gloss up my life. I needed it to be real, and it really needed to be honest because no one writes honest books. I'm swearing again, sorry.
Yes.
But no one
we'll beat that out.
No one writes honest books. They don't sit and go, okay, I'm this bad person, I'm this, I'm that. They don't want you to see that side of it, especially in autobiographies. And I thought, I don't have an ego where I think, I'm going to write an autobiography because I'm a DJ. I'm a very niche market, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to write a book and be as honest as I can. Which I learned along the way that I could be a lot more honest if I really tried. And that book changed my life because I don't have skeletons. That's why I'm married now, because of this book, because all the skeletons were put into it. There are no skeletons. There are no lies. I'm the most honest version of myself, which makes me lovable, which is, you know, and makes, when I can love myself, I can love someone else.
You've now got two stylish men living in the same house.
No, he's not living with me because we don't have the wardrobe space. I don't have a wardrobe. I have a walk-in room. I have a large bedroom that is lined with clothes rails, all fitted into it.
It's funny you say that. So I got moved out of the house.
Yeah, because the clothes.
Into a shed. Right. So now all my clothes are in a shed. On rails.
So yeah, I have an awful.
But I quite like that thing. You go in and you can see everything at once.
So I have everything laid out. Like, so I had some people come and do my wardrobes about 6 months ago, and they ruined everything. They absolutely, you know, because I have a method to my madness. So everything's like that, and I have so many clothes. I have like 6 wardrobes in our house, and they're all full of clothes. But the room, the big bedroom at the back is now a wardrobe. So that we are, obviously, he lives in his house, I live in my house. We're a very modern marriage, and we will get a marital home together.
How close are the houses? I mean,
look, he's in New Cross, I'm in Pimlico. But the thing is, he's at my house 3 days, 4 days a week. You know.
Have you given him a drawer?
He doesn't need a drawer. Don't worry about that. Half my stuff's at his house anyway. There's like, when we get a marital home, it has to be the right home. I don't need to, listen, we're married. We don't need to change suddenly. Oh my God, let's change everything and make everything bad. Our relationship works so well because of, we have that distance. Do you get what I'm saying?
But do you think that is also down to the fact that it's 2 men in a marriage? So therefore there's not that kind of other gender dynamic going on where there's a sort of nesting thing or that sort of needing to happen.
I think that comes even with 2 men. You get that nesting. You get certain people that's ingrained into them. I also think it's kind of generational thing where, okay, that my mum got married at this age, blah, blah, blah. This is how we get married. This is how it works.
And we've got to that point in proceedings, Tony, where you have to don the Spooning with Mark Wogan blindfold.
Blindfold, okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
There we go. So pop that on.
Always ready to be blindfolded.
Is it it's not your first blindfold, is it?
Funnily enough, no. I wear them a lot on planes.
Yes, exactly.
There we go. One.
Right. So here we are, Tony. I'm going to feed you. This is your first spoon. Okay. Open wide. Tell me what flavors, what textures you're getting. Is it a delight? Is it what are we feeling? I mean, take your time, obviously. See, it's different when you're blindfolded, isn't it?
It's got a chili after it's
got a little bit of spice in there.
A good kick to it.
Yep.
Curry.
No. There's part of you who's going to hate me, Tony.
Got coriander in
it. Go on, take the blindfold off. So, as everyone who comes on, we fill out a questionnaire, and you talked about how one of the evils in life is KFC, because every time you have it, you regret the fact that you have. So we've got fried chicken there, and then I've done a guacamole and coriander mayonnaise for you with a little bit of chili, because you said you hate avocado and you hate.
You know what? I just don't.
How bad was that?
That wasn't bad at all. It was actually quite delicious. But when I say I hate avocado, I hate sliced, unripe avocado. I don't get it. It's like, why are you eating that? Or mashed avocado on toast. It's like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean?
But in a delightful sort of avocado mayonnaise.
Because it's not overpowered by it.
But that's what I mean. It's like, so I believe there's no such thing as a bad ingredient, as long as it's balanced. It's when there's...
So back to that word again. Balance.
When it's overpowering, nobody wants that.
Because, you know, I'm on the motorway quite a lot, and where you're all forever stopping at service stations, and it's always certain service stations either have Burger King or they have KFC, and very rarely do they have a McDonald's. But you know, you do get, depending on which direction you're going, it's normally KFC. So I end up always getting a chicken fillet burger.
You are about to embark on Hard Camp. Tell us about Hard Camp, because that kicks off on the 4th of July, is it?
Yeah, the EP comes out. You know, we just released. I've done, you know, I hadn't been in the studio for a very long time, and I wanted to do dance music with a punch. You know, I wanted it to be yet again that another extension of who I am. And I worked with a guy called KDA, and we like to call it the C word house music, and it's just music that's like, it's got edge and it's got punch, you know, because people sort of, whenever I DJ, they understand, they think that I play one certain type of music. I don't. I play all types of music, you know, things that excite me. So with this project, we did a rework of Right and Exact, and we did a track called Big Things Coming, which is about other DJs, because, you know, when they're not working, you see them on Instagram, go, oh, guys, big things coming, watch this space. So, you know, because, oh, you not work this week then, yeah? You know, it's like literally trying to make themselves relevant. So we did a track about that, and, you know, it's been a really good project, and it's going down really well. And the EP comes out, which has got 4 tracks. It's got Barry White rework on it of Don't Make Me Wait. And another track called Give 'Em Head, which is got a Lourdes sample in it. It's just loads of, like, you know, it's just another extension.
But that kind of musical, it's not even kind of reinvention, it's just keeping consistency and keeping constant, isn't it? Because, you know, you
reinvent.
Well, I mean,
So
but that thing of big things coming is like, have you ever found yourself in that position where you're going, big things are coming, nothing's coming?
Of course, we all get in that position. You know, I can have a weekend off, which is very rare, where I'm at home all weekend, and I will go on social media and I will get the biggest FOMO of other people's careers, because I will get on Sunday afternoon, I think, my God, my career's over. It's all.
How is the imposter syndrome, Tony?
You know, it's probably around a 3 these days, instead of it being a
But do you have that thing? So you stand up, you arrive at the decks, you're there, you're about to take over.
Yeah.
And is it still now, oh, they're going to find out?
Of course. But that's what keeps me on my toes. That's what makes it exciting. You know, I can sit in at the front of the plane instead of down the back of the plane by the bogs like it used to be. And I can go to the most exotic places on earth to do one of the best gigs ever. And I will still sit there thinking, oh my God, they're going to hate what I do. They're not going to like it. I don't deserve to be here. But that's what keeps me on my toes.
What would be?
I don't get complacent.
Because obviously you've now done this for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a top 3 moments for you where you thought, it doesn't get better than this?
Oh, you know what? There's been more than 3. I couldn't even narrow it down to that. I had pinch me moments all the time, and you know, I go to places and I'm just like, oh, and I take it all in.
What's the largest crowd you've played to?
I don't know. I mean, you know, back in
rave first days, 10 rows, you're not counting.
Well, even in the rave days, we did 50,000 people in a field, you know, at Sunrise and things like that. And you know, I've done stadiums, I've done Wembley, I've done, you know, done all of these places. I get more freaked out by the smaller ones than I do the big ones.
What, like private parties or
small rooms, and like just like, oh, because there's nowhere to hide on stage to 50,000 people. You can hide, but I always forget the screens, so I pull faces quite. If I see someone, I think, oh, I hate that person or whatever, I will, or I see someone talking, or so I'll zone in and I start giving them a dirty look, and then I'll come off and they're like, you do realise there was video screens either side, and I'm like, oh, because it's like my face pulling faces at people.
But that thing of, you know, when you you know, you do your events
Yeah.
that your ticketed events that people come to versus the private party.
Yeah.
That thing of, I mean, I know a number of artists who look, the private parties pay really well, but they can be terrible because nobody's specifically come to see you.
There's this difference between dance parties, dance music, making people dance, or DJing for a fashion event where people are eating crudités and chatting. That's the difference. Those are the worst events. I really do not want to do those events anymore because I want people to. It's like restaurants with DJs in. What is that about? You don't DJ to someone eating.
Well, you say that, right? There is one place I've been to that does it brilliantly, and you would love it. It's in mid-Wales. It's called Yishneer, and the guy is, and he plays a different set every night, but it's sort of curated to the music, so it's gentle and it's lovely.
That's different.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So like, there's a restaurant in Mykonos called Naima, and they play completely like.
Which I think you said was your favourite restaurant.
It's one of them. Yeah, it's out there. It's incredible because it's just got that old school element of everything. I mean, listen, I love Casamaca and Ibiza. I love all of these places.
Oh, obviously, apart from Corrigan's Mayfair, where's your favourite place in London?
In London, I would say right now, I would say the Dover.
Yeah.
I love the Dover.
Very intimate.
That's what I love about it. It's got that 1980s, like late 80s New York feel.
But the food food is good as well. It's not style over substance.
No, far from.
You know, it's a beautiful room. It's very intimate.
You walk in, they all know you. They're all really friendly.
Well, they know you. Most people can't get a table, Tony.
Yeah, I'm quite pushy with Martin. I called him on the day, go, I need a table tonight. And you know what? There's never been one time where he's said, no, you can't get a table.
Yeah, I think most people would be terrified to say no to you, Tony, because the backlash would be horrific.
The food's incredible. It
is incredible.
It does a great prawn cocktail.
Well, put your blindfold on because we've got some more incredible food for you.
Come on. That was insane, okay, believe it or not.
You see, we've changed your opinion.
Well,
that's what we're here to do.
I was just on about coriander in general, not just.
Right. So here is your second spoon, and I'm going to feed this to you. Let me just put that down there. Hold on a sec. And here it comes. I've got a feeling you might like this. Open wide. There we go. What have you got there?
Is it an avocado mousse?
No.
What is it? Hang on, I'll tell you what it is.
I've fed you the avocado. I'm not going to do that again.
Very chocolatey.
It is very chocolatey. You take the blindfold off. This is my favourite dessert here, which is their chocolate mousse. But
caramel.
But it's got chocolate caramel. It's got this fantastic chocolate tuile, and then it's got the chocolate crumb on the top. It's like chocolate. It's phenomenal, that, isn't it?
That chocolate crumb's insane.
It is.
It's like Nestle Crunch.
Yes. But
the caramel as well.
Now, I tried to find you some sugar puffs. They don't make them anymore.
No, don't make them.
Do you know why? There's too much sugar in them.
No, right.
So now they call them honey puffs.
That's right, yeah.
Which is rubbish.
Awful. And they don't taste the same anymore.
I'm more of a crunchy nut cornflake man myself.
You know what I used to love about them? They made your pee smell of sugar puffs. I literally, I'd wake up in the morning, go pee, and I could smell.
It's like the confection version of asparagus.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, on
that's insane. That's incredible.
Are you like me that really you sort of tolerate the other courses so you can get to this one?
I would rather start with this one and then have 2 more desserts.
Well, strangely, Heston, who was a guest recently, he was saying he's thinking of reversing his menu.
I think that's an incredible idea.
Yeah. Well.
For people like me, I mean, listen, I love food, and when I go to A1, they do 36 dishes at their Taste of China. By 14, I'm kind of like, all right, can we get on to dessert now? You know what I mean?
But that place I was telling you about with the curated thing, so there's 38 courses there, but the last 14 are pudding.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
Incredibly. Incredible. You know, when people get pudding right, they get it right.
Yeah. No.
You know.
And when you get it right, you get it right. And I do wish you every success
thank
with the hard camp thing. I look forward to
It's one of the things.
seeing more and more of you, following you on Instagram and enjoying your take on stuff. I think, you know, what you represent and what you put out there is fantastic. And long may it continue.
Thank you so much.
That is, of course, it for Spooning with Mark Wogan this week. Tony will continue to eat his pudding, probably for the rest of the day, and he's got his cheesecake to get through as well. But if you like what we're doing here on Spooning with Mark Wogan, you can follow us across all your social media channels just by searching Spooning with Mark Wogan. And of course, you can view us on glorious Technicolor on the Virgin YouTube channel. Big thank you to the team here at Corrigan's Mayfair and the use of the lovely Lindsay room. And I will see you next week on Spooning with Mark Wogan. Until then, stay beautiful.